Hello and welcome back to yet another geek show where Josh can finally add that he's a booth babe on his resume. I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Alton Munnell.
I'm your booth babe, Josh Keir.
All right, good start, guys.
You said you had something funny. I was not expecting that.
You're welcome. I listened to that episode on the way to work today.
So, guys, I expect this to be kind of a short one, so we can just get to Endgame, what everyone really cares about, right?
I really have so much to say about Endgame.
Yeah, coincidentally, that's one of the only things that I did last week. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I would say let's start with our non-spoiler summary here in this episode, but this episode's actually going to go up after our full spoiler spotlight discussion. So,
yeah.
You guys already know we loved it. Whatever.
Yeah.
What else did you guys do this week?
It was super sad when Batman died.
Yeah. That's always the hardest part of the Fantastic Four.
I thought it was a really touching moment when Captain America and Thanos both realized that their mothers were named Martha, so they became friends. It was just such excellent writing.
Oh shit.
Oh jeez. Okay. You've thrown me really off right off the bat. What have I done?
Yeah, Dalton, you start.
Okay, well, everyone's dying to eventually watch Game of Thrones, which is why I'm still rewatching the old shows, because I can talk about those before this one's over.
Yeah.
So my simultaneous watching the new season and rewatching the old seasons, I just got through season 5, and mind you, every season of this show is incredible, but this might be my least favorite so far in my rewatch, just because I don't give a shit about Dorne and all the screen time there.
Oh God.
I just don't care about a lot of stuff that happens in Essos in this show, just because there's fewer important people over there in terms of the grand scheme of things. And so you put more time into characters I just don't care about.
Essos, was that where the Unsullied were?
That's the whole... Yeah, well, Essos is the whole continent.
Yeah.
That's the whole continent where Danny is for half the show.
Okay. Yeah, I had to double check with my memory there. Sorry.
And I love Danny as a character, and like, especially, as of that season, Tyrion's there and he's one of my favorites. And
right.
I like Jorah plenty too, but compare the important people on that continent to the number of important people in Westeros.
Right.
It's so
definitely the scales are tipped there.
Yeah, so I feel like, not that I was actively keeping track, but I feel like this season spent a lot more time in Essos, and I just didn't really care. It's a lot of time into characters I'm not really concerned about.
This is around the time that they ran out of book to adapt and started writing, almost, I think, predominantly original show content. And coincidentally, that's also when the quality of the writing in the show takes a massive nosedive. Are we doing a whole series retrospective or a season 8 retrospective? I don't remember.
For our spotlight episode, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm okay with calling it series because we're not going to go back and rewatch the old shows.
Okay, well maybe I won't go too in depth into this rant yet and save that for the episode, because I got some hot tea to spill about Game of Thrones.
Hot tea.
I have a lot of very strong
I'll just
opinions.
Comment on what you've already thrown out there, and I'll say that I do think a lot of the show starts to take a nosedive here, but I would not say it's dramatic. I would still say, even up to this point where I have complaints about the episode we just saw, I still think it's one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's a bad show. I thought season 7 was horrible, but the show overall is still like an all-time great. It's just sad to think about what could have been if George R.R. Martin wasn't literally the laziest writer of all time.
Oh, man.
Coming on 9 years since Dance with Dragons came out. And who knows when The Winds of Winter will come out.
I bought the first book years ago and have not started it because I don't want to be invested in it. If he puts out one more book before he dies, I'll consider risking whether or not the last one comes out.
I am fully prepared. If there was a way that I could bet money on this, I would bet money that Brandon Sanderson finishes his Stormlight Archive series, which currently book 3 of 10 just released. He's going to finish that series before the next 2 books of A Song of Ice and Fire come out. I fully believe that.
Speaking of which, I've heard a lot about that series. Do you recommend it?
Wholeheartedly. Brandon Sanderson is pretty much my favorite author right now. I would start off maybe with some of his other books. I think the Mistborn trilogy is a good place to get into Brandon Sanderson.
Good. You know what? I'll find a clever way to come back to that later.
Okay.
Yeah. So this, screw it. We did say we're going to make it a whole show retrospective. So maybe that episode's going to be like 3 hours and I'll stop it here, even though I do have some stuff to say. I played an awful lot of Shovel Knight, but not going to talk about that either because, guys, we're definitely doing a spotlight on that everyone can look forward to after the last free DLC campaign comes out.
Yeah, Dalton, you weren't given a choice in that. Me and Josh were going to force you to do that spotlight,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you guys could have done it without me if I didn't get around to the game in time.
I'm pretty
Josh,
sure in
best
another
friends.
episode we both begged you to play Shovel Knight.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, but Josh and I, we're like best friends. We grew up together. We fucking can do the show without you, Dalton.
Yeah, well, I'm glad.
That seems
but I'm not going to
accurate.
make a segment out of that game. What else did I do? Oh, okay, I did do a thing. That's not watch Endgame and watch Game of Thrones.
A thing you did?
I watched HBO's documentary on Michael Jackson and his accused sex crimes. Is it called Leaving Neverland? That sounds right. I
think
should
it
take
is, yeah.
notes for this show. I say that every episode. One day I will. We talked about before the recent R. Kelly documentary, Surviving R. Kelly, and we all had an awful lot to say about it, but I believe that was in the unaired pilot episode.
That was episode 0, so I think none
Yeah.
of that conversation has survived.
Right. So I had a lot more to say about that one than this one. They put this out in 2 parts, and honestly, I watched the first part, and I don't think I'm going to bother going to the second one because I don't know how either of you guys feel about whether you believe he did what he's accused of or not. But I feel like this documentary, at least the half of it I watched, isn't as convincing as R. Kelly's. R. Kelly's brings a lot of evidence to the table, and it starts in facts. It starts with things that they provably know. Here's this tape that exists. Here's the 15-year-old he married in secret that we learned about later. And, they use that and go from there. But the half of this documentary I watched, it doesn't really... It's kind of all just restating the accusations again and not giving me anything more solid to start working with. And I mean, I don't have any opinion on whether he did it or not, but ultimately what a lot of what I watched here was to me was just like one of his victims is just kind of graphically reciting everything that happened to him. And I'm listening to it and I'm like, I get that this is supposed to be shocking and it's engrossing in that sense, but the detail you're going into isn't actually helping the case here. And it's not entertaining either. It's just gross. And,
Right.
if these accusations are true, then, it's gross no matter what. I don't need to hear the specific details. He violated a child. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know, with what body parts and with what words were said. So I don't know. I just didn't feel like I was learning anything useful here, and I didn't feel like it was going to sway me one way or the other. And I could totally pass on this.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, I guess.
Yeah. Man, I wasn't expecting that to be the turnabout. Even though there's always going to be these accusations, and it's kind of one of those things of separating the art from the artist, or letting it all go down in the same ship. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I mean, whether or not you believe the accusations are true or not, the dude made a lot of content over the years, and it's good. you know, whether or not.
It's hard to stay unbiased here because as much as R. Kelly is an icon, Michael Jackson is so much more of an icon.
Yeah. Yeah. As in terms of media, R. Kelly's living in his shadow. You know, how many records went platinum with Michael Jackson? Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of
approximately all of them.
I thought it was, but I couldn't be 100%. I mean, I don't know. It brings up a really interesting argument of, you know, for example, Rob Zombie. I think he's an a-hole. Like he's just a rude dude. Like doesn't seem like a great person. But I liked his music when I was younger. And then I might lose a little bit of fans with this, but then I got taste. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like every now and again hearing it, I'm like, oh, cool. And then, you know, you reminisce over what you were doing at that age and all that. But it's one of those things where I separate the art from the artist in that case. You know, it's interesting to see, you know, what length, like what line do they have to cross until it becomes, I can't even listen to this music anymore without being disgusted, or I can't view this painting, or you know what I mean?
I mean, the line is somewhere very far between Rob Zombie just being kind of an asshole and Michael Jackson harming children.
Well, yeah, but it was an example of me separating art from artist. You know, I wasn't trying to compare them as who's the evilest.
Josh and I both have an unfortunate appreciation for Orson Scott Card, who is probably the most like shithead someone is, while me still supporting the things they make.
He wrote Ender's Game, which while I was growing up was my favorite book of all time. I don't think it is anymore, but it's still one of my favorites, and it had an absolutely huge impact on me growing up. And I've read to tell you the truth, 9 other of Card's books. Unfortunately, the man in real life is a giant douche canoe.
Josh, would you like to explain what exactly he did?
I don't know how to say this besides the fact that he is incredibly religious, and I don't think that alone makes somebody a bad person, obviously, but he has some rather controversial views on things like homosexuality, for instance. He's just very, I guess, staunchly conservative in all of the worst possible ways.
Okay. Okay. I see.
Well, and it's really strange to realize because I read a couple of his books before learning this about him, and it really caught me off guard because, you know, the books he made, at least the ones I read, do not at all, to me, deliver the messages that he seems to believe.
Oh my God, I completely agree. Like, I could not believe that the guy that wrote Speaker for the Dead had the same views that I saw him spouting off in interviews and like essays that he published online.
Wow.
I mean, Speaker for the Dead is not only like one of the strongest examples of like the message of appreciating everyone and not being so harsh to judge, but it also features like it basically declares an atheist one of the smartest people in the universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
An atheist who like dedicates his life to understanding and appreciating other people.
Yeah.
And so it's a weird thing where like, you know, I buy a book like that and I know that I'm giving money to a serious shitlord, but I am giving him that money to promote a really good message he doesn't seem to believe in, so that's weird.
I don't understand how you can write an entire series based around characters trying to like get into the minds and understand like the feelings in society of literally alien creatures and learn to coexist with them, and then not accept gay people of your own race in real life. Wow. There's such a hardcore dissonance to me there. It's just unbelievable. I literally don't understand the kind of doublethink that you have to be capable of to be able to write about both things at once.
Yeah, to rip yourself like fully out of the things that you create is a very difficult thing to do.
I mean, if someone asked me to write a book that, you know, really argued against understanding of, you know, people and the way they are and the way they want to be or are naturally, like promoting any kind of hatred. I couldn't force myself to do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I mean, I could force myself to write a character that disagrees with me, but I couldn't force myself to write a story that disagrees with me. I don't get it.
Yeah. You know, I remember a particular conversation that you and I had, Dalton, way back when we were working on an old album. And I said, I cannot think of a scenario or a subject to write about for this one song. And I asked you if you had any ideas, and you said, what about this? And I was like, all right, cool. And I went on it and I had a field day with it. Like that stuff, like I can do, but you know, if that's the dude's like core beliefs and he's going like completely against them, you know, in his creations, I don't know how you could do that.
Right. I think we agree pretty well on all that discussion, and we've hit every mark we need to hit. So does anyone have anything else to bring up this week?
I started, well, I didn't start. I finished season 2 of Cobra Kai.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was waiting for that one. Let's go for it.
Okay. For those of you who are not familiar with it,
let's call this season 1 and 2, since, you know, we weren't doing this show when season 1 came out.
Well, yeah. Well, I was going to give a synopsis of the show.
Yep.
Okay. For those who are familiar with the Karate Kid movies, this is their sequel. It starts off with showing the ending of the 84 All Valley tournament, and I can't remember which Karate Kid. I'm going to assume it's 3, but and then it shows 30 years later with the life perspective of William Zabka's character Johnny Lawrence. So William Zabka played Johnny Lawrence of Cobra Kai Dojo in all the Karate Kid movies. Then you had Ralph Macchio, who was the Karate Kid. His character's name was Danny LaRusso, and they're both the main characters of this show 30 years after the movies. But this takes place over the perspective of Cobra Kai and not Miyagi-Do. So nothing like Mr. Miyagi's teachings. It kind of shows the other side of the coin, to speak, where you know, Johnny Lawrence looked like a complete dickhead in the movies, but he's kind of showing like, hey, you know, I might have been a little rougher around the edges, but I had my reasonings for the things I did. But the show starts off, he's kind of a really crappy repairman. He loses his job. He goes to a store to buy some pizza and sees some kids bullying another kid. And he tries to stop it, but those kids start fighting him. And then he pulls out some classic karate style fighting and just beats the crap out of these kids. And then eventually reopens Cobra Kai, and he teaches these kids the way of Cobra Kai.
You had me at beats up kids.
Yeah, right?
I'm sold. Let's watch it.
Well, he defended some poor kid, you know.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't like a merciless beatdown.
Well,
but
that's unfortunate.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, he did get maced and tased and then arrested by police right after the fight.
You tell a story about the bad guys and you don't just beat up kids for the hell of it.
Right. Yeah.
It just seems like a wasted opportunity.
It's really good. Season 1 was done really well, but season 2, I lost my shit, guys. Like the story goes places that I wasn't expecting it to go. Like towards the end of season 2, you kind of start figuring out, okay, this is what's going to happen. But then there's a major point at the end of season 2. And oh my God, I'm so mad that they didn't release season 3 right with season 2. Like they're expecting the show to be like 5+ seasons.
Josh, have you ever watched the Karate Kid movies?
You know, I'm outing myself as a horrible person right now. I have never seen them.
Oof. Dalton.
Okay, so here's the problem, Alex, is that I have not either.
Oh.
Or I might have watched one of them when I was too young to really remember it.
Oh no.
And
Guys.
so you're going to have a hard time selling me on this one no matter how much you like it, because I don't know how much actual attachment you had to the original movies or if you just remember them.
I don't have.
But I can
so
tell you,
much.
I'm not going to start this show without watching those movies first.
Please do. I mean, it'll give you a lot more context. That's the nice thing I like about this show, though, is you could pick it up only knowing like the end result of the Karate Kid movies and still be entertained and have fun with it. Like certain inside jokes that you'll catch. You know, you'll get a good chuckle out of, but it's really nice to see like you don't have to know the story from 30 years ago per se to know what's going on in the show.
Is Jaden Smith in this one?
No. No, he is not.
Wait, there are
No,
there are other Karate Kid movies? I thought that was the only one.
Josh,
I'm just saying things to hurt you now.
get the fuck out of my podcast. But yeah, I strongly recommend it. Even if you don't have a huge like connection with the Karate Kid movies and want to find something good to watch on the YouTube Red series or YouTube Red subscription. Sorry.
Yeah. We are not sponsored by YouTube Red.
No.
Josh, do you have anything?
So I've been thinking about it, and I think the only things that I did this week were watch the most recent episode of Game of Thrones and watch Endgame, neither of which I can talk about right now. I did not finish anything this week.
Oh, I know. I've been playing a lot of Sekiro lately.
Yeah, I'm still working through that too, but I'm definitely nowhere near done with it.
Have you gotten past Lady Butterfly?
We've talked about that twice now, so let's wait until someone finishes it.
Well, let's get a small update here, Josh. Have you beaten Lady Butterfly?
I did beat Lady Butterfly. I beat her on Sunday.
I just beat her last night.
That's a fun sentence.
Yeah, it is.
Trust me, once you know how bad that fight is, yes, it's a very fun sentence.
Yes. Oh goodness. I feel like we just want to like stop talking and go straight to Endgame, guys. Like,
yeah,
this,
guys, what do?
Yeah. Oh man.
Just what do? All right, guys. Well, I did tell you this was going to be a short one.
Yeah, this might be our shortest episode yet.
Man, we had some really good conversations earlier this episode too. God, I wish we could flesh this one out a little bit more.
Well, that was with behind the scenes stuff. Like, hopefully in the next couple episodes, Josh, you'll sound not like garbage.
I'm gonna be garbage till I
Josh
die.
personally, not Josh's microphone.
Yeah, Josh personally, not the microphone, guys. We really only want Josh on here as filler.
That's all I'm good for.
All right,
goodness.
guys. Well, maybe when this episode comes out, you're sick of hearing from us already because we probably talked about Endgame for 2 hours. So
This is true, yeah.
So I'm not that sorry.
Okay, so I think it's a little bit funny that we talked about books here on this show for, I think, maybe the first time, and that's actually quite topical. Dalton, you want to tell our lovely listeners why that is?
Because I learned to read this week.
I know. I've been trying to teach you for months, and getting through the alphabet was hard, but you got your Z, we got to Z, and we're there now.
Could it be because we have a sponsorship with Audible?
Well, that's how we will continue paying for my reading education.
You know what? If you're like Dalton and you can't read, then audible.com is the place to go for you, because people could read your books to you.
Go to... What was that link again, Dalton?
That link is audibletrial.com/YAGS. That's YAGS for Yet Another Geek Show.
YAGS.
Yeah.
And hey, I mentioned Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson earlier in the show.
On there.
That is a book that you could listen to on audible.com.
totally on there.
Read. Audible.
Yeah,
the place
if you
to
can't.
not read.
Alrighty, guys. We will see. Well, you'll hear our Endgame spotlight before this one comes out. But until then, take care.
Thanks. Bye.